guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Kim. Today is day 8 of Bookmas, and today I'm going to be talking about my top 8 books of 2020. I found this so difficult to plan. Like, there were so many books that went on the list, off the list, on the list again, off the list again. And then, yeah, because I was obviously constrained to 8 days because it's the 8th day of Bookmas, so I couldn't like make any kind of leniencies or anything. And I was going to sneak in like a few extras and be like, it's not really 8, but then I thought, no, I'm going to be strict with myself and really limit myself. So that's what I did. So number 8 best fiction book of the year, I put as Illuminae by Amy Kaufman and Jay Kristoff, and I literally finished reading this yesterday, so it literally kicked someone off the list to go on the list. And actually, I haven't done my review for this yet, but I didn't give it 5 stars. So that's the other thing about this list, is it's not really about star ratings. It's kind of like a reflection on how I kind of feel about the book after I've read it, and how I feel about like how much I enjoyed reading the book and stuff like that. I didn't end up giving this 5 stars. I ended up giving it 4 stars. But the reason I put it on the list is because it's one of the most creative books I have ever read in my life. I don't know if you've seen my video where I did try a chapter tag, and this is the one that I chose to read from that video. And I did show a bit of the book there. I don't want to like give anything away, so I'll just show you some of the very, very beginning bits. But yeah, so it's kind of like a collection of documents that tell the story of a community on a distant world at the edge of the galaxy, and how one of the biggest companies in the universe has come and basically destroyed them because they've been illegally mining on this planet. And I think that this bigger company wanted to kind of take it, I don't know if they did want to take it over, but anyway, they wanted to get rid of their competition. So this community ends up being slaughtered, and then you're following 2 characters in this book. They're young 17-year-olds who have just split up. They're going for a breakup, but they have to escape together, and they end up on different spaceships. So this book is kind of about those 2 characters. It was just really fascinating to read. There were some pages where it was kind of written as if it was you were moving through space, like as things were happening, and I just thought the whole thing was so clever. Yeah, there were things about it that I didn't really like as much, which I'll talk about in my review video when I do it in January, but I don't think they're important enough to kind of knock it off the list at all. They're just kind of like picky little things. But yeah, I think it is definitely worth picking up. It was definitely an experience, and for Christmas, actually, I'll get them and show you. Yeah, for Christmas, Spencer ended up getting me Gemina, which is book 2, and Obsidio, which is book 3, so it's a series as well. Yeah, and I'm really excited to get to these guys. Then number 7, I chose Before the Coffee Gets Cold by Toshikazu Kawaguchi, and I really enjoyed this book when I read it. I kind of want to reread it again because I can't quite fully remember everything. But this book is such an interesting kind of idea. So it's about this cafe where within the cafe there is one chair where if you sit on it you are able to travel in time. There's lots of rules surrounding this time travel. For instance, you can only kind of meet people who have been in the cafe at the time that you're traveling back to. So it's really limiting, and you have to really know a very specific time that you want to go back to so you can kind of meet the people that you want to meet. And there's also there's many other rules to do with it as well, like you can't actually change anything in the future, so don't go traveling in time thinking you can change any outcome that there is. Really, this book is like a lot about loss and about dealing with bad things that happen and kind of grieving and things like that. And it's split up into 4 kind of mini stories of 4 different scenarios of why people want to go and sit in that chair and travel, who they want to meet, why they want to meet them, what they want to change, kind of thing. And yeah, it's just a really interesting book, and one that I definitely want to read again. I do know that there is a second one out, and I can't remember what it's called. I haven't heard hugely great things about the second one, but I think I will still give it a go and pick it up in the future. The one thing that I will say about this that I didn't actually say about in my review, I watched my review back just to see my thoughts, and I said in that review that it kind of made me feel really upset one minute and then really kind of happy the next minute. But one thing that I didn't say in that review that I remember thinking about the book is that it was written very much like a stage show. So when I was reading it, I could basically picture the stage, and just imagine the people coming in and out of the cafe. I guess that kind of is slightly down to the fact that it's set in a cafe in one room, so you don't have to change scenes or anything. But it just had that vibe to it. And then when I read the little blurb about the author, it said that he is a playwright and that this was originally a play. So yeah, and it reads like that, and I think that that's kind of nice that it was a play and it still feels like a play. Yeah, I really like that about it, and I definitely want to be reading it again. Okay, so next up in number 6 is a bit controversial because I only gave them 3 stars, but it's the 2 first books in the Cursebreaker series, so A Curse So Dark and Lonely and A Heart So Fierce and Broken by Bridget Kemmerer. But really and truly, I loved this series, and I loved these books. And I don't think it was really fair of me to give A Heart So Fierce and Broken 3 stars, to be perfectly honest, because I did really enjoy it. And I remember saying about Curse So Dark and Lonely that I had problems with the writing style, and that's why I gave it 3 stars. But I didn't really find that for the second book, so this is probably more of a 4-star book. But anyway, so this is a YA fantasy, and the first book is a Beauty and the Beast retelling. So in the first book you're following the perspective of Harper, and you're also following this perspective of Ren, who is the prince that has the curse put upon him. So it's not the same way as Beauty and the Beast, it's a different type of curse. But it basically means that he's living a very, very long life. And his kind of right-hand man, Grey, has the job to go into our world, so the non-fantasy world, and get girls for Ren to try and break the curse with. Yeah, that probably sounds as bad as it is, to be honest. But yeah, so Grey goes into America and he's trying to take a girl back to his fantasy world with him, and Harper, the main character, sees them and goes in to like save the other girl, and she gets taken instead. And then it's the story of Ren and Grey trying to come up with a way for Harper to fall in love with him and break the curse. But there is a fair bit more to it than that, and you do kind of go out into the outer world. You're not just kind of confined to the castle, and you do kind of see what is happening in the realm as well, and I found that really interesting. And I read these books so fast, especially by my standards, and so for that I really felt like it deserved to go into my top 8 books, because I really enjoyed them, and I can't wait for book 3, which is A Vow So Something and Something, that I'll put up here so you can see. But yeah, I'm really, really looking forward to it. So you've probably realised by now that I've grouped series as a book, because what I didn't want to do was say, oh, this is my favourite book, and then this is my favourite book, and this is my favourite book, and then they're all from the same series. So I've lumped series together. So yeah, number 5 is Strange the Dreamer. So this kind of duology I read back earlier in the year, and I really, really liked it. And to be honest, it does need a reread, definitely, but I remember really, really enjoying it. So this follows Laszlo Strange, who is a librarian, and he's a pretty kind of like low-down librarian. Nobody gives him much respect, he's just there to work for people. But on the side, he's doing his own kind of research into this city that has no name, and nobody can remember anything about this city. And yeah, when I watched my review back, I did kind of only give that much information, and then I said I think you should just go into it without knowing what happens. And I think because it's been so long since I've read it, I'm not going to try and go into any complete detail, especially because I've read Muse of Nightmares as well, which is the second book in this duology. But it was really good. Like, it was really, really good. I think the world was just so interesting. And I did say in my review as well, especially for the first book, from what I can remember, I did kind of find it fairly predictable, but it didn't really matter because the journey was so good, and I was always interested in what was going on. And I think Laini Taylor has just built this amazing world, absolutely amazing world. And I think if you've read the books, you'll know what I mean, but it's has such the potential to kind of have more works written in that world. And I really, really hope that Laini Taylor does do that in the future, because I will definitely read it. I know Laini Taylor has written other books as well, so I definitely want to be picking up some of those guys in 2021. Okay, so number 4 is Girl, Woman, Other by Bernardine Evaristo. And this is a fairly popular book, so probably a lot of people have heard about it, and I've reviewed this very recently on my channel anyway. But I absolutely love this book. I thought it was so captivating and so eye-opening and very, very interesting, and very just well done. I just feel like the whole thing was just very, very well done. The style of the writing, I think, took a little bit to get into, but then once you were reading the book, it flowed really nicely and kind of like, I think I said this in my review, sorry, I'm completely repeating myself during this video, but it just kind of drags you in to the story and you get into the rhythm of it and it just moves really nicely. So this book tells the stories of lots of different women, predominantly black women, and you kind of learn about their lives in each little section. So it covers 12 different women, and within sections of 3 different women, they intertwine together. They intertwine throughout the whole book, but more characters intertwine with some than others, and you just get to see what's happened to them in their life, and it's quite as simple as that. You learn about their stories, you learn about what they've been through. Some of it's quite harrowing to read and hard to read, and definitely trigger warnings in this book. There was a particularly difficult scene to read about a young girl, and something that happened to her. It was awful, but I just really loved kind of reading the book and getting to know the different women and kind of seeing things from their point of view. You follow lots of different kind of age ranges, so there's obviously the young girls, and then there's also a character in her 90s, a grandmother character, and really liked her. There was also a lot of good LGBTQ plus rep as well, which was really nice, and I don't think I've ever read a book with female-female relationship before. So I should probably change that in 2021 a bit more. But yeah, it was just so good, and I really, really highly recommend it. It was a very, very good book. So number 3 is Small Island by Andrea Levy, and I loved this book so much. I really, really did love it. So in this book you mainly follow 3 different characters. So you follow Gilbert and Hortense, who are both from Jamaica, and then you also follow Queenie, who is from England. And when Gilbert and Hortense move to London from Jamaica after World War II, they move into Queenie's house, so she becomes their landlady. So yeah, this is a historical fiction book. Like I said, it's based around the end of World War II. So, but you do get a few flashbacks before that time as well. But Gilbert ends up going to kind of be in the RAF during the war, and then goes back to Jamaica, and then after the war he wants to move to London, and so does Hortense. And it's about kind of how the way that England and the UK and London are portrayed in Jamaica is just not the reality that it is when they both move to London. And this book was very, very eye-opening to me, especially kind of learning about the way black people were treated in the UK, in London, and around the UK, when people moved over for a better life, so to speak. Like, yeah, it was very, very eye-opening to me. And like I say, you do get to see the life kind of in Jamaica, and you see life as the reality in the UK. So it does cover very, very difficult topics, and it does discuss horrible times in our history, but it also is very kind of funny as well. Like, it's a very entertaining book to read, but it doesn't like overtake the important issues in the book that are being discussed. But Gilbert is one of my all-time favourite characters. I absolutely loved Gilbert. He was hilarious to read from his perspective. So yeah, if you haven't read this book before, I do highly recommend it. I really loved it. And I think because I love this book so much, I really, really want to pick up more works by Andrea Levy. I don't really know where to start. I think she's got a fair few. According to this book, there are 5 other ones. So if anyone has read anything else written by Andrea Levy, then let me know if there's one that you would recommend, and then I'll try and pick it up next year. Okay, so now we're on to number 2, and really this is between Robin Hobb's books, The Realm of the Elderling books, and The Stylist C by Erin Morgenstern. Both the series I love and The Stylist C I loved, but I have chosen to go in the number 2 spot, The Realm of the Elderlings, which I'll pick up here. I don't know if this is the right choice, but this was what I decided to do. I think they're backwards. They're backwards. This was the first trilogy I read. So it starts with Assassin's Apprentice, then you go on to Royal Assassin, and then it's Assassin's Quest. And in this trilogy, you follow Fitz, who gets sent to live with the royal family because he is the illegitimate son of the king-in-waiting, and his maternal grandfather doesn't want to deal with him anymore, so he gets sent to live with them, and he's basically trained as an assassin for the royal family. And let's just say he just goes on quite the journey. And they're definitely not the happiest books I've ever read, but I think the world is so interesting. The character development is amazing. I think Robin Hobb's writing is just, it just sucks you in. And there's a lot of kind of changing perspectives in these stories. And I won't really say much more than that, but I feel like what Robin Hobb does a really good job of is changing perspective like just in the middle of a sentence, and so you're really confused about what's going on in the same way that characters are confused. And that's one of my favorite things about her writing, is just so skillful at kind of making you feel the same emotions as the characters are feeling. So like I say, these are very, very character driven books, but because of that you're so invested in the lives of these people. So that's the first trilogy, and I've lumped them together because they're part of a bigger series called The Realm of the Elderlings, so they do kind of go together anyway, even though they are different trilogies. And then the second two books are from the Live Ship Traders series, and I'm about to start the third one in this, and then that'll be this trilogy. And these books, I would say, are written in an easier way to digest than the first three books I've just shown you. So they're the Farseer trilogy, and these are multi-perspective, so you get to see from the point of view of a vast amount of characters. I did find in the second book that it was kind of a lot. I still really enjoyed it, and I still gave it 5 stars, but I do find that there are so many interesting threads of storyline being made in this trilogy particularly, that you kind of read one story and then you're devastated that you've got to move on to the next story, because you're like, wait, I want to hear more about this story. Why are we moving on so fast? I don't want to go on about them too much because I always go on about them, and I will be reading the third one, like I said, in January. So I'll probably talk more about the series as a whole in that video anyway. So that means number 1 spot goes to The Stylist C by Erin Morgenstern. This one I read really early in the year, I think. So it's probably due a reread to make sure it stands up to my praise. So I know that this book is really hit and miss with some people. So I know there's a lot of people that don't get on with the writing style in this book, even if they did like her other book, which is The Night Circus, which I haven't read yet, and I do plan on reading in next year, so I'm really excited about that. You're following in this book Zachary Ezra Rawlings, and he is a master's student and he's studying in the field of video games. He's kind of a bit of a lone wolf, and he likes to go to the library and check out books and read them. And then one day he goes to his uni library and he checks out this, or he picks up this very kind of old looking book that doesn't seem to have a title, I don't think, from what I can remember. And it's a collection of short stories, and within that book he reads a story that basically tells a story of something that happened to him. And he's really confused because how does this book have anything to do with his life when it looks like it's a hell of a lot older than he is? And then he kind of goes off on an adventure to find out what this book is and what it means. The book that he's found, you read alongside him as well, so you do get to hear the stories that he's reading. And throughout the book that happens with other books as well. You read those books alongside the story as you piece the world together. And it is a bit of a topsy-turvy kind of story. But I just found the whole setting absolutely magical. It made me feel like when I was a kid, and all I wanted to do was like go into a book and go on an adventure, even though in reality I probably would have gone on no adventure because I was a real scaredy cat when I was little. This is the other thing that I really liked about this book as well, is that I have kind of a hard time actually picturing scenes and things like that. I don't know if I have that thing where I can't picture things, because I can kind of have an image in my head, but it's more like the idea of an image. I don't know. I don't know if anyone else has the same kind of thing. I definitely can't remember colours. Like if I see a shirt 1 second and I walk away, then I will forget the colour of that shirt almost immediately. So yeah, I do have a bit of a hard time with picturing things, but I found with Erin Morgenstern's writing in this book, even the short stories, I felt I could picture everything, and I really like that about this book. Because like I say, it doesn't often happen that I can do that. So I really appreciated that, and it made it kind of feel more cozy because I could do that, I guess. So this is my number 1 book for 2020, Absolutely loved it, and I hope that I reread it next year. I haven't really been a rereader in the past, but I do definitely want to pick up this one again, and a couple of the others on this list I think in the future I'll be picking up too. So yeah, that's everything for this video. Thank you so much for watching. Let me know if you'd like to what your favourite book of the year was this year. And yeah, I hope that you're good, and I will see you tomorrow for day 9.